Part 1 Extended. They didn't even let her take the rocking chair. Martha stood on the porch of the ranch as she had lived on for 42 years, her fingers still curled as if gripping its worn wooden armrest. The grooves in that chair had shaped themselves to her over decades, mornings with coffee, evenings with silence, nights with worry. It wasn't just furniture, it was memory made solid. Now it sat behind Victor, who had positioned himself in the doorway like a guard at the edge of her past. The men moved around her with mechanical efficiency. Drawers emptied, boxes sealed, a lifetime reduced to objects that could be stacked and carried. The wind lifted the hem of her dress, bringing with it the familiar scent of hay and dust and distant rain. It felt cruel that the land still smelled like home while denying her the right to call it that. "You've got no claim here," Victor had said, folding a paper with a sharp snap. "The will is clear." Martha had watched his hands more than his face. Clean nails, no calluses, hands that had never fixed a fence or pulled a calf into the world. Hands that now held power over everything she and Louis had built. She could have fought. She knew that. There were lawyers in town who would have listened, maybe when taken her side. But something inside her resisted the idea, not out of weaknesses, but out of instinct. Louis had always said that when people rushed to take something, it was usually because they were afraid of what they might lose if they waited. And Victor looked afraid. "What about the south pasture?" She had asked quietly. Victor smirked. "Ours. The house. Ours." Her eyes drifted past him, into the dim hollow where sunlight filtered through the curtains. She could almost see Louis stir, leaning against the wall with that thoughtful half smile, watching everything unfold like it was a test he didn't yet understand. There was a pause then. A flicker of something, amusement, perhaps. Victor added, as if remembering a joke, there is one thing. You inherited something after all. He handed her a second document, thinner, almost legible. Martha unfolded it with trembling hands. "A sealed mine," she read. The words felt strained in her mouth, like they belonged to someone else's story. The man lied, not loudly, but enough. "About 15 miles west," Daniel said, almost apologetically. "It has been abandoned for decades. Sealed off. Worthless. Dangerous too," Victor added. "Probably your husband never touched it." Martha didn't react immediately. Instead, she read the paper again, slower this time. The legal language, the coordinates, the date, something about it didn't feel like an afterthought. Louis had been meticulous, careful. He didn't leave loose ends, not in life, and certainly not in death. "Worthless things don't get written into wills," he said softly. Victor's smile tightened just slightly. "Believe what you want. It is yours." Martha nodded slowly, folding the paper with care. "I see." And just like that, it was over. Defis. By sunset, the ranch was no longer hers. The sky burned orange and red as if marking the end of something sacred. Martha stood by her truck, staring out across the land one last time. The fields stretched endlessly, golden under the fading light. The barn leaned slightly to the left, just as it always had. The fence along the northern edge still needed fixing, as he had meant to jet to it last spring. There were 1,000 unfinished things. 1,000 small promises that would now remain broken. She climbed into the truck without looking back again. Because if he did, he might not live. Defis. The road to the mine was little more than a memory carved into the earth. Martha's old truck caged and rattled with every mile, dust rising behind her like a ghost. Refusing to settle. 15 miles west. She repeated it in her mind like a prayer. The land chunked as he drove, grasses driving way to dry, cracked soil, then to jagged stone and scattered scrap. It felt like a different world. A forgotten one. Even the sky seemed harsher here, wider somehow, as if it had nothing left to shelter. He almost turned back to us. The first time, when the road narrowed so much he feared getting stuck. The second time, when the silence grew so compelled it felt unnatural. But something kept her going. Maybe it was anger, maybe it was grief, or maybe it was the strained, persistent memory of Louis, standing honest at the edge of Tearland, staring west with a look as he hadn't understood at the time. It had been years ago. Late evening. The kind of quiet moment that didn't seem important until it was all you had left. Some things, he had said quietly, are better left alone until tearing. As he had lied then, nudging him. That doesn't make any sense. He had smiled, but there was something distant in his eyes. It will, as he hadn't asked what he meant. Now, as he wished as he had. Device. The sun dipped lower as Marta finally said. At first, it looked like nothing more than a break in the terrain. A shadow where there shouldn't be one. But as he got closer, the shape sharpened. The mine appeared suddenly, like a scar in the earth. A calloused wooden structure marked the entrance, its beams blackened with ash. Rusted warning signs hung crookedly, their words barely legible. One of them creaked softly in the wind. It is rhythm union, almost like breathing. And there it was, the seal. Thick iron bars welded across the opening, reinforced with concrete. Not something thrown together in haste. Not something meant to keep animals out. Something meant to keep people away. Marta stepped out of the truck, her boots crunching against gravel. The wind tugged at her coat, carrying with it a chill that didn't belong to the desert air. The silence here was different. Heavy, almost watchful, as each approached the entrance slowly, her gaze tracing every detail. The wilds were strong, recent enough to not be completely corroded. Someone had sealed this place with intention. Her fingers brushed against the stone beside the entrance. There was something carved into it. As each wiped away the dust with her sleeve, revealing a date. And beneath it, initials. L.R., her broadcoat, Luis Ramirez. Not scratched carelessly, but carved. Deliberately, permanently. Her husband had been here. Not just honest, but enough to leave a mark. Memories began to shift in her mind, small moments as he had dismissed at the time. Nights when Luis came home later than usual. Days when he seemed distracted, lost in thought. The occasional unexplained expense. The quiet way he would change the subject whenever he mentioned selling part of the land. "Why didn't you tell him?" he whispered, her voice barely audible. The wind didn't answer, but something else did. A faint sound. Marta froze. At first, he thought it was the sign creaking again. Or maybe the wind slipping through the rocks. But then it came again. Clear this time, metal tapping. Her heart began to pound. It wasn't random. It wasn't the shifting of old structures or the settling of earth. It was deliberate, rhythmic, as if someone was knocking. Marta took a step back, her breath catching in her throat. Every instinct told her to leave. To jet back in the truck and drive until the sound faded into nothing. But he didn't move. Because the tapping came again. Softer now, almost weaker. And suddenly, the silence didn't feel empty anymore. It felt occupied. Marta stared at the sealed entrance, her mind racing. Someone, or something, was behind that wall. Waiting, Part 2, extended. Marta didn't sleep that night. As she sat in the truck, wrapped in a blanket that still carried the faint scent of her old home, staring at the sealed entrance as the moon dragged slowly across the sky. The desert chunked under moonlight. Edges softened, shadows deepened, and the mine looked less like a structure and more like a wound that had never healed. The tapping had stopped, but the memory of it hadn't. It echoed in her mind, steady, deliberate. Not random, not imagined. It had been a signal. And signals meant intention. Someone had been alive behind that seal. Or at least, they had been. Marta tightened her grip on the blanket. Fear came in waves, but something stronger held her in place. Not courage, exactly. Something quieter. A kind of certainty as he couldn't explain. Luis had known. The thought returned again and again, refusing to leave. He had been here. He had sealed it. He had left it to her. Not to Victor. Not to anyone else. To her, by dawn, sh had made her decision. If the world thought this place was worthless, they were wrong. And if Louis had kept it a secret, then there was a reason. Device. Breaking the seal took 2 days. The first strike of the hammer sent a jolt up Martha's arms, as if the main itself resisted her. The metal rang sharply, echoing into the hollow darkness beyond. Sh paused, listening. Nothing, no tapping, no movement, just silence. Hold on, sh murmured, to sh didn't know if anyone called her. I'm coming. The horse blurred together. Swing, beauty, rest. Swing, beauty, rest. The iron bars were thick, welded deep into the rock. The concrete around them had hardened like stubborn resolve. Her hands blistered, skin split, muscles burned, but sh didn't stop. Not when the sun climbed high and baked the ground beneath her feet. Not when the cold of night stiffened her joints. Not when wind up crept in, whispering that sh might be too late. On the second evening, as the sky turned a dull purple, the final bar gave way with a groan that sounded almost human. The opening yawned before her, dark, cold, and waiting. Martha stepped back, breathing heavily. For a moment, sh simply stood there, staring into the blacknesses. This was the point of no return. Whatever lay inside, truth, danger, or nothing at all, would change everything. Sh hesitated only once. Then sh grabbed her flashlight, and stepped inside. Device. The air was cooler than sh expected. Not just cooler, different. It carried a dampness that didn't belong in the dry lands outside. It smelled of earth and metal and something faintly alive. Her boots crunched against loose gravel as sh moved forward, the beam of her flashlight slicing through the darknesses. The tunnel walls were rough, uneven, supported by old wooden beams that creaked softly as sh passed. Every sound felt amplified, every breath, every sigh. The tunnel sloped downward, pulling her deeper into the earth. The light from outside faded quickly, swallowed by the mine as if it had never existed. And then, tap, Martha froze. The sound came again. Tap, tap, closer now. Her heart pounded so loudly sh feared it would drown everything else out. I hear you, sh called, her voice trembling but firm. I'm here. The tapping stopped. For a moment, there was nothing. Then, faintly, tap, a response. Martha moved faster now, following the sound. The tunnel twisted slightly, opening into a wider passage. Her flashlight flickered across as something metallic embedded in the wall ahead. A door. It didn't belong here. The rest of the mine was crude, almost primitive, but this door was deliberate. Reinforced, designed, and slightly open. A thin line of darkness cut through it from. Martha approached slowly, her breath shallow. Sh placed her hand on the cold metal and pushed. The door creaked open. Device. The room beyond was unlike anything sh had imagined. It wasn't a natural cavern. It was constructed. The walls had been reinforced, smoothed in places. Shelves lined the sides, filled with crates, towels, and equipment that had long since gathered dust. Some of it looked old, decades old, but other pieces seemed newer, maintained. Machines, extraction equipment, processing units, not large scale, but precise. Intentional. Louis hadn't just found something here. He had worked it, quietly, carefully. Martha stepped further inside, her light sweeping across the room until it landed on a table at the center. Papers, stacks of them. Sh approached slowly, as if afraid they might vanish if sh moved too quickly. Her fingers trembled as sh picked one up. Maps, detailed, not just of the mine, but of the land surrounding the ranch. Lines marked across them, veins, dins, extensions. Her breath caught, gold, not a trace, not a rumor, a network. Her knees weakened, and sh gripped the edge of the table to steady herself. Louis had known, all these years, he had known, and he had said nothing. Because he understood what sh was only beginning to see. Gold didn't just bring wealth. It brought ruin, device. A sound behind her made her spin. The tapping, louder now, closer, coming from deeper within the chamber, beyond another narrow passage as which he hadn't noticed before. Hello, Martha called, her voice echoing. No answer, but then, movement, a shadow shifted, and from the darknesses, a figure emerged. A man, thin, pale, his beard unkempt, his clothes worn and hanging loosely from his frame. But his eyes were sharp, alive. He raised his hand slowly, as if approaching a wild animal. Don't be afraid, he said, his voice rough from distance. I thought no one would ever come back. Martha stared at him, her mind struggling to catch up with reality. You're alive, he whispered. He gave a faint, almost disbelieving smile. Barley, who are you? He asked. My name is Thomas, he said. I worked for your husband. The word struck her like a blow. Louis knew, he asked, to he already understood the answer. Thomas nodded. He found the gold years ago. Didn't trust anyone with it. Not even family. Martha let out a slow breath. Oh, of course he hadn't. He said people would destroy everything to get to it, Thomas continued. Tear the land apart, turn it into something ugly. So he sealed it, Martha said. And left them to guard it, Thomas replied. At first, I had supplies. Enough for weeks, maybe months. But then, he hesitated. The outer structure collapsed more than expected. The exit became blacked. I tried to clear it. Couldn't. His eyes flickered toward the entrance Martha had broken. I've been trapped here for months, he said quietly. Rationing, waiting, tapping, hoping someone would hear. Martha felt something tighten in her chest. All that time, so close to the surface. Forgotten, until now. You're coming out, he said firmly. Right now. Thomas nodded, but his legs trembled as he stepped forward. Martha moved to support him without hesitation, wrapping his arm over her shoulder. As they made their way back through the tunnel, the darkness seemed less oppressive. Because now it held an ending. Device. By the time Martha returned to the ranch a week later, everything had changed. Not because of the gold, but because of what he now knew. Victor stood at the gate, arms crossed, that same smug expression waiting for her like it had never left. Come back to back, he asked. Martha stepped out of the truck slowly, her gaze steady. No, he said. I come to make an offer. Victor lied. You don't have anything to offer. Martha reached into her bag and pulled out a folded map. Louis's map. He held it up just enough for him to see the markings, but not enough to understand them fully. Victor's smile faltered, just slightly, and in that moment, Martha knew. The balance had shifted. Device. Months later, the ranch was hers again. Not through force, but through patience, through trust, through understanding the weight of what he held, and refusing to let it control her. The mine, honest dismissed as worthless, became the key to everything. But Martha didn't exploit it recklessly. He remembered Louis's silence. His caution, his wisdom, he developed it slowly, carefully. Ensuring the land remained intact, the balance preserved. The wild it brought was shared, not hardened. And Thomas, he stayed, not as a prisoner, but as a partner, a guardian, because some secrets weren't meant to be buried forever. But they weren't meant to be exposed carelessly either. And sometimes, in the quiet horrors of the evening, Martha would sit in her rocking chair, returned at last to the porch where it belonged, and look west. Toward the mine, toward the hidden truth that had almost been lost. The wind would carry across the fields, soft and familiar. And he would whisper, with a small, knowing smile. You were right, Louis. Some things are better left alone. Until they aren't.